Hello, this is Sabrina at Piedra Luna Tarot 808, bringing you a collective reading of the incoming energies when Saturn finally leaves Aquarius and goes into the house of Pisces. And it's a big thing. Like, I've been watching several videos from astrologers as to what could be the energies that could come up. In my humble opinion, and what I've also investigated and discovered as well, usually astrology would have a tendency to see the darker side of how things can play out, because astrologers, the history of astrologers is that they were the counselors for kings and for leaders, and they had to tell them when it was a good time to make important decisions, such as going into war or things that would actually affect a lot of people, the whole country or the whole kingdom. So you wanted to be very cautious, and you wanted to be more conservative, and always let the king know about the negative side of any planet. So I've seen that usually in astrology, there's like that tendency of focusing first on the negative of what each planet brings in each house. But I also, because I'm not an astrologer, actually, I'm a tarot reader and an empath of energies of the collective, very Piscean, actually. I was really wondering because when Saturn moved into Aquarius was in March 2020, and that's something. Now, that doesn't mean that astrologers don't have great things to say. Of course, they do. I've a lot of things that have come in reality I've heard from astrologers, and I also felt the same energy coming from my cards as well. And of course, they have a plethora of knowledge that I do not possess. My knowledge in astrology comes from the cards. So I wanted to make a reading as to what does this mean and why would this be important, because when Saturn went into Aquarius was in March of 2020. And of course, we remember what happened there, that all the something unprecedented in our times, that borders were closed because of the epidemic. We all know that. But finally, after 2 years and a half, Saturn is leaving Aquarius. And Saturn can be about restrictions, and Aquarius is a very collective energy of the world, of rules and collective things, is less personal, is very impersonal actually. And of course, Aquarius is ruled by the sign of Saturn, so that makes Saturn very strong and empowered. So we saw like restrictions and problems and life lessons and tower moments left and right, from death of people that we love, from the epidemic, or financial struggles. Those that didn't see people dying around them, they had a lot of financial struggles, or some people even saw both of them. And we've been secluded and isolated, which is very much a Saturn and Aquarius kind of energy. And we finally, God bless, we're leaving that spiritual lesson, and everything has its purpose. And I wanted to know, what does it mean? What does it energetically mean, and clairvoyantly mean, and spiritually mean, and energetically mean that Saturn is leaving Aquarius and entering Pisces? Now, Pisces is the last of the signs. So Pisces, according to the astrological lore, is the sign that has learned has gone through all the reincarnations of all the other signs, and has learned many lessons from all those lives. So it can have that potential to be very wise, because of being more mature, because of having gone through different perspectives, and having lived the life of Taurus, the life of Aries, and the good and the bad that each sign brings. Of course, Pisces, in its detriment, is can be being overwhelmed by your emotions, and people that don't have their Pisces well balanced can tend to become alcoholics or drug addicts, because they need to numb that overflowing and that drowning. They need to drown. They feel drowned in their emotions, and they try to drown those emotions they cannot cope with drugs. and alcohol. Very interesting, actually. One of the times that Saturn went to Pisces was when the AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, was created, and it was a way to restrain that overflowing of Pisces, because actually Saturn is about structure, is about the things that are solidity and things that take time to be built. It's actually pretty much like the like the King of Pentacles, like we have here from this deck, of the wise and mature king that knows how to build an empire, and knows that it takes time to grow anything, like because it's also related to agriculture. And Pisces is related to of the waters and the emotions and overflowing emotions. So I've been checking out the other astrologers, and I've seen like more of a negative thing, but that's not what I was feeling. So, but I saw a couple that actually did resonate with what I was feeling. I guess I needed that validation. But this is what I'm feeling from these energies. I'm actually feeling great things, and I truly believe, as an empath, as a tarot reader, as a white witch, as a person that feels the energies, and also as a personal philosophy, that the world, and also by the observation of the world, that the world and the universe is always striving to find, for there to be balance, for there to be, like with the temperance card. And maybe that has a lot to do as well, and it resonates a lot with me, because I'm a Sagittarius, and I'm always in regards to the balance of finding that the middle road, not too tight and not too loose. And I feel, and that's also the way that there's creation in the world and destruction, like also like the Hindu philosophers have of Shiva and Shakti. One destroys the world while the other creates it. And we also know in physics that we need tension and release for there to be energy. And after having all this tension of Saturn in Aquarius, of being the restrictions, of being isolated, of having a restriction in regards to being together in our hardest times, and having to go within, and having to go through very difficult, harsh life lessons, because yes, Saturn does bring difficult, harsh life lessons, but intuitively I do feel that they have a purpose. That cross is the cross that we bear. Trials and tribulations are not forever, and they bring great rewards at the end that nobody can take away from us. Like after winning a battle, after all the suffering, after all the endurance, after the perseverance, we gain tremendous growth, spiritual growth, and also material growth that nobody can take away from us, because we know that things that you earn quickly, you lose quickly. Things that take you a long time to build are things that you cherish, such as relationships, such as building a home, such as building an orchard, such as building a garden. And you know that it takes patience and endurance, and it takes also failure and learning from failure. So with further ado, also I'm gonna go through the cards to let you know the energy that I'm feeling. But I've been receiving like this energy that we've been. Oh, I'm gonna save this for last, but there's gonna be a change in leadership, great change. Like from what we've been seeing so far, where we feel disgusted by what our leaders are saying, or by what entrepreneurs or like the big people, like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all those big shot guys, which feel like very much Aquarius and Saturn, very isolating, very heartless, very tower moments and destruction and cutting things and cutting jobs, and and the workplace being so toxic, and there's been like a real distancing from like it's almost like a war between the employees and the employers. This is going to be different when Saturn enters into Pisces on March 7, in the following way. We are entering, if this time has been these years have been kinged or ruled by the Elon Musk's, which probably has like an autism spectrum, because he's very detached from having empathy to anybody. And because he's reached, of course, he's a genius for all those that love what he does. I mean, yes, he's a genius. He's very smart. He's built great things. I have not built those great things. I know that. But also, you can tell by the way he talks about other people that he really doesn't care about people. He's very much into the ideas. He's very much the Saturn in Aquarius, the King of Swords, just to the point and no heart. But there's a limit on how far you can go with that. And this is where when Saturn enters into Pisces, where we're going to see a big difference in the energy and the leadership. We're going to go from the Elon Musk to the Richard Branson. Richard Branson, I strongly feel, is going to be our new leader. He's going to be the one making great changes, and he's going to be the one we're going to be looking at. He's going to be exactly what the world needs. And I was like doing some research about him, because he's one of the only few billionaires that actually is very heartful, and he talks about his employees as people that is obvious that should be respected, because when you respect your employees, they respect the company and they respect your customers. And when your customers feel respected, and there's all this movement of respect going back and forth, your clients take care of the shareholders. And that is how you build actually long-lasting kingdoms. Because a kingdom can be like, of course, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have made a lot of money, but their empires are crumbling, because there's you can go with only logic so far. If you don't include heart in whatever endeavor you're doing, it's incomplete, and it's going to fall by its own weight. Because one man and one dictator, or like the stronghold, the violence can keep things in place for so long. After a time, the rope is gonna break. People are gonna break. Their mental health is gonna break, and it's gonna be transferred to the customers. Customers are gonna start feeling the difference and we know that Jeff Bezos is no longer, like, he wasn't in leadership for a long time for his company on Amazon, and his first premise was the customers should be customer obsessed. Like, that was the motto of the company. While Richard Branson has a very different view, and he says, no, customers are not the first thing you should be looking at. The first thing you should be looking at is your employees. And I'm gonna read some great quotes that I found out there that really they're the essence of what we're gonna see. Okay, so with the cards, like, I've been studying these cards for a long time and seeing all the angles, and this is what I'm feeling for the collective with finally Saturn getting into Pisces. I don't feel the negative thing. I think that in between the structure of Saturn and the humanitarian and Christian, like the Christian message, the heartful message of Pisces, of relating to everyone, of feeling like we're one love. Let's get together and feel all right. That, like, of course, if you have the hippie movement without structure, didn't get us far. But this time we're gonna start to see, and because of Saturn, it's not gonna happen from day to night, but we're gonna start seeing the movement and the transition of a paradigm when Saturn gets into Pisces on March 7 in the following way. We're gonna start seeing that the rulers, our rulers, or the hierophants, the ones in the positions of power, from the employers, from presidents, from leaders, because we've been going through such harsh things, and because the mental health of the whole planet is collapsing. I mean, we're collapsing from all this stress, from all these burdens. There's going to be a need and a change, and people are, the energy is going to flow naturally when Saturn gets into Pisces. It's going to start flowing like a water, like a river, to leaders like the president of Ukraine, where structure meets heart, where logic meets heart, which is very, very Christ-like, which is very much the message, if you believe or don't believe in Jesus, but it's regardless of that, just the philosophy in itself. And yes, I do believe in Jesus, but I respect those that don't, of course. But just looking at it as the philosophical of the law was not made just to be made and for us to follow it. The law was made for there to be peace in humanity, of the Steparian wolf, of the social contract, of if the laws are there not just because they were always there. No, that's not true. The laws were not always there. We created them because they were needed for there to be harmony. And that's what I feel, that when we go into the Saturn enters Pisces, we're going to have a transformation of those laws. There's going to be a challenging of those laws and those structures for there to be harmony with the Three of Cups, of realizing as a world, as a global world, and with all the information that we've had, and of course we're saturated from all the information, we're saturated from the pain of others, we're saturated from the news, we're saturated, but also we've with technology, we've like before, people didn't realize that everything we're consuming right now is on the shoulders of slaves, of modern day slaves. That we have not left that paradigm of creating resources from the back of slaves, from people in India and Pakistan, in the Middle East, in Africa, in Central America, Southern America, in the poorest countries. The resources are taken from them. They're paid peanuts. They don't have any well-being at all in their workplace. They have a shortened lifespan so that we can enjoy our cell phones, so that we can enjoy our modern commodities, including electrical cars. And that doesn't mean that electrical cars and modern things are incompatible or unsustainable with having a fair world. The problem is how things are structured. The problem is that we have put a blind eye for a long time on how we're doing society. Like, we've established laws where there hasn't been the Three of Chalices, the Three of Cups, of things being good for everyone, that they are fair for everyone, that they're fair for, that we are happy with the product that we are receiving, but we also are conscious that the people that worked for, in order for that product to arrive to our tables, from the agriculture to miners to all the prime materials to make anything, to make the industrial revolution, that everybody is well taken care of, because if they are not, it's going to affect us globally. Even if we are so many already that we can no longer put a blind eye, that if the people that are collecting the prime materials from things as sparkling things, from cobalt or copper or iron, or all these elements that are required, because we need the earth to produce technology. We need the resources of the earth to produce technology. If you follow the news, you have seen that the rare earth elements are so important, and we're also, everybody's putting an eye on understanding that the way we collect the prime elements of the world is under slavery, and that is causing problems around the world. Is causing migrations, like more than ever. It's causing health problems. It's causing environmental problems, and that is going to be something that, as Saturn enters into Pisces, is going to become a big topic. Like, how do we make society? How do we make an economy where we have, and where everybody's doing well? It is kind of like a socialist kind of thing, but not in the extreme, like as communists. The deterioration of the idea of socialism was not that everybody should be eating the same shit. It's actually that everybody should have enough to have a dignified life. That even if you work in a mine, and now with technology, why are we still using humans and having them endanger their lives to collect materials, when we are able to send machines and robots even to Mars? How come we cannot invent? I mean, material robots to retrieve those elements, and as well to be sustainable, that the people that live around those places, okay, once the hazardous activity has been done by robots, then you can give it to the people, and then they can do and put the heart into the products, because we cannot have robots creating things that are really useful, because they're, although there's all this movement of the AI and how AI can, like artificial intelligence, can bring us forward into creating a better world. If we don't have a heart, if we have logic and we don't have a heart, I mean, what any business sells is not, it sells an emotion. It sells a something that feels that has a purpose, and things without purpose or without heart, they are not long lasting. And we're going to see that big difference. And there's also going to be a an alignment. This is the Three of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles, of what we are creating on the long term, how we're creating things, and also of understanding on the long term how we're retrieving those materials, how we're creating world, and how we're producing products from the idea to actually having them on the stores, how that is also affecting the planet. Because with Pisces entering Saturn, we're going to see, if we don't take the reins of how the energy and how the world is going, we're going to start seeing even more natural disasters having to do with water and land, because of Saturn and Pisces. Like, of course, it's going to be inevitable for the whole world to stop putting to have a blind eye of how the climate crisis is going to make the sea level rise, and it's going to start taking away land from us on the coast and in many places, to extreme scenarios, if we don't start putting boundaries in what's happening. And it's going to be something physical in the world, and also internally. There's going to be, with the Four of Pentacles and the Hangman, a paradigm change, or like we're going to start seeing things from a different perspective with the Hangman, of what is worth keeping, what has actually a value, and the value of our life. And with the Four of Pentacles as well, because Four of Pentacles is a person, can be seen as like the miser that is holding on. Let me get you another card to show you, like, of the miser that is holding on to, well, actually this is another card of being closed up, of like putting your money into safe, into like a bank, of holding on to your talents, of accumulation, the accumulation of whatever resources. Like we've been doing it this way with the Before Tarot, where you have the employers that work for the person in charge. They bring in the person in charge, accumulates all the resources, as well as we can see as a person that works, how you're actually bringing a coin to your life, how you're making you're of course putting the bread on the table, but at what cost, and how much of there has to be a good balance in that, because if not, there's Pluto is also going to have, I feel like, a good amount of like influence on us, in a way that is going to remind us, yes, okay, you can accumulate all the resources you want, but remember, death comes to all. It comes to the rich, it comes to the poor, and that's something that was a lesson from Saturn being in Aquarius, from the epidemic, of realizing that even the super rich couldn't get away from death. I mean, they had to be just as the poor person had to take care of their well-being with the pandemic, the rich person also had to take that same measures, the same washing of hands, and of course, yes, people that didn't have the resources, if there wasn't any, if you don't have running water, and if you don't have soap, and if you don't have money to buy like a mask, of course, that's hell of a big difference for survival. But and how that actually made an effect in higher deaths in many places. But we actually saw the example of actually people in many African countries where they did find a way to as much as they could on the places where it was possible to bring in water and to follow the guidelines because they were so simple and because they're basic human needs of the same. Because I had the opportunity to work like for the super rich during the pandemic, and they were just as scared of the virus as people that were poor. The ones that do care for science, of course, there's rich people who don't care for science or don't believe in science. Of course, there's also poor people that don't believe in science, but those that do, they felt the same threatened from death. It was the same. It made us equal. Death makes us equal. And this realization from Saturn being in Aquarius of realizing that our time on Earth is limited and the whole planet having that mindset that death could find you, it made everybody, or not a lot of people, change their mindset on what it means to be alive, what it means to be on this planet, and how much time we have, and how much, and the balance between spending time. Now that after going through that lesson of actually Saturn being in Aquarius and people not being able to be with their families, especially our grandparents. That was the case for me. I didn't see my grandpa much during the pandemic. We were both high risk, and we both did our isolation, and before this shit could end, and before things before things got much better with the vaccines, he passed away. And I was seeing a video today from, I like to see the China South news, and there was this old man from China. He had 2.5 years of not seeing his children, and when he was finally able to hug his children, he was crying like a little baby. And for me, this is that crying, that pouring from our hearts, because we only realize how the value of things when we lose them, not when we have them in plethora. No, we realize how valuable they are when we lose them. And when we lose our chance to be with our families, to give hugs, I mean, we are all missing hugs. We're all with red numbers on regards to hugs, in regards to physical contact, because it was necessary for us to be protected during the pandemic. And it's a scientific requirement, of course, isolation and not having a physical contact, not to pass on the virus, of course. But that was a lesson that is now going to be balanced with Pisces getting into Saturn, of that value of who you are holding strongly to. Are you holding strongly to your coins, to your time and work? Are you giving the most importance in your life on your work? No, people are not. And that was the big lesson from Saturn in Aquarius. And that has a long-lasting effect. And that was what I was feeling on my first readings, that I started this channel during the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic. And that's what I was feeling, that was the spiritual lesson that it was going to bring to all of us, is that we were going to realize how we're going to see work in a different way, that we cannot only live to work. We work to, they cannot be like, if we think about it, our whole society has been structured, and we've been fed the old paradigm, like the old laws, is if you're not being productive, you're not being a good person, you're not being a good partner, you're not being good to your family, you're not being an adult if you're not working 24/7, if you're not doing extra time, if you're not like kissing the shoes of your boss. And then you realize that as all of a sudden the economy gets bad, and what happens? Your boss kicks your ass. I mean, they just fire you. After all the effort that you did, after everything that you gave to the company, you're just a number. And that made people like wake up from that. And that has a lot to do with the great resignation movement of people saying, no, forget it. I mean, why am I sacrificing my life, my time, because time is life? Why am I sacrificing my time in life for a company that doesn't give two shits about me? When I should be giving my time for my family. If we're creating a coin with the Four of Pentacles, and yes, it's important to have like a structure of a good financial structure, but for what do you want that money for? To spend it with your family and to have a good quality of life and to be there for them emotionally. And to be emotionally for someone, that takes time. It's just like seeing a tree, planting a tree. You have to nourish it. You have to be checking it out. You have to check that if it doesn't have any diseases. You have to check if it's receiving enough water, or if it's receiving too much water. I mean, it's a constant looking after of things that are long lasting. We have to be present, and we have to be emotionally present. And that, I feel, is one of the great lessons that we're moving from Saturn being in Aquarius to moving into Pisces. That we are realizing who we're giving our time to and why and how, and if it's balanced. If you see now, everybody, I'm sure Glassdoor is become super popular after the, if you don't know what Glassdoor is, it's actually a website where you can share, share your experiences in different companies, and people can see what is the environment inside a company. People now care more how the environment is. I mean, they're fine with it being a decent salary as long as it's a nice and healthy mental environment where there is dignity inside the workplace. That is what is most important for people. Now the new generations, we are moving away from spending on like thinking that our lives are going to be fulfilled by buying things, buying a bigger house, buying a newer car, the newest phone. We've seen that people right now, technology, during the pandemic, people were not buying laptops. And actually, one of the few companies that was not touched by the pandemic was Apple, probably because it's usually the super rich or the very wealthy that are the biggest consumers. But people that saw the financial strain from the epidemic, they refrained from buying the newest phone because they needed that for rent. They need that for heating. They need that for food. And then we realized that there are things that are far more important than products, than things, than having the basic for life, and also having a good work-life balance. And after being able to work from our homes, we realize all the time that we have extra time to be with our family, not having to do that commute time, not having to be inside the toxic workplace. That has really changed the mindset of the world. So that is a great thing that we're experiencing from that move. From what do we want to hold on to? And also with the Eight of Wands and the Eight of Chalices, which actually, the Eight of Chalices is actually, because if you don't know by now, all the tarot cards are like the ultimate astrology kind of game. Like each card represents a house and a planet. And Eight of Chalices actually represents Pisces and Saturn. And that is what walking away, like the Eight of Chalices is walking away from things that no longer serve us, the things that we have realized no longer have value. And why are we getting to that point in our lives where we're not drinking from every MF cup that we are being offered? Why not? Because and even from relationships as well, people have realized that during the harsh times, you really see, when you put people under pressure, you see what their true colors are. You see what their true values are. Because it's very easy to say you're the nicest person in the world and you're full of values in Facebook or in Instagram, how you're living the best life. But it's actually when you're going through shit, or when people are going through shit, when you're going through difficult times, when it takes time to really do the pushing, you realize how important it is to have a good partner. When you're in crisis, that, okay, yeah, they might be you might find awesome partners when life is great, when you have money, when you have tons of friends, when it's time to go partying and to have fun, and when everything's nice and beautiful and peachy. But when things are shitty, all of a sudden you don't have all those friends. I mean, and you realize then who your true friends were, the ones that stick to thick and thin, and that includes partners. Because going through the pandemic, and there was a lot of people getting divorced during the pandemic because finally they were obligated to spend time with the people that they chose as a partner and to be with them during times of crisis, during the harshest times. And that's when you realize who that person is really, when you put them under pressure. And people realize how important it is when things are difficult, like during war times, to be with someone that shares your same values, that shares your same strength, or that complements you, or that lifts you up when you need it the most. And that was a wake-up call as well, because it's the Pentacles is about the world, the tangible world, but it's not only about how we make our talents or how we spend our money, or how we collect money, or how we have financial security, but also the physical, the legacy, our family, the structure that we're building. And we had with the Ten of Wands, which is actually Saturn and Sagittarius, is we've been holding on to so much, so many spiritual life lessons, so many trials and tribulations. If you talk to anybody, they've probably gone through so many things that could go wrong. It was like Murphy's Law was having a ball on Saturn when Saturn was in, as Saturn has been in Aquarius. Like everything that could have gone wrong, it fucking went wrong for everyone. Like personally, since 2020, since probably, yeah, since March 2020, every week I have been dealing with struggles or something like an emergency, something that I need to fix, something that like real test of endurance and persistence and faith as well. So we're moving away from, we've had so much already that we have to put our burdens down. And we have to be and we are moving into this energy of being discerning, and not, this is in a personal, at a personal level, but also at a collective level of having to put down all those burdens and the things that we're holding on, that we're clinging on with the Four of Pentacles. What do we actually want to hold dear to us? And moving away with discernment, with the Eight of Chalices, to where we really want to be, to what really matters. Because if you keep holding on to the things that do not serve you, you're not making space for the things that serve you. Like very feng shui energy, if you want new things and better things to come your way, or I mean, if you want a good relationship, you either have to change and put away the toxic things that you were carrying, or maybe sometimes it's just getting away from that toxic person that is never going to change. And if you're holding on to the toxic things, how are you going to have how are you going to make space for the good things, for the healthy things, for the things that are going to endure? If you're always spending time with your friends, drinking, and in a very, like the negative side of Pisces, of drowning your anxiety or your depression or the uncertainty about the world in going out with friends where it's only about jokes, it's only about superficial things, it's nothing, you never go deep into anything. How are you going to build actually into a long-lasting situation in your life if you keep holding on to things that are of no value, that are shallow and superficial, and once things get tough, all those people you were surrounded with, they're no longer there. So they were not really there for you to begin with. And that is making us, with the Lovers, which Lovers is a decision, is a conscious decision, but it's all a romantic one, like what you decide you want to, what you're attracted to, and what brings you completion, or what brings you a sense of purpose. That can be from romantic, from a partnership, to a job, to a life purpose, to a philosophy. And that putting away of the things that no longer serve us, and having the Ace of Wands, having that, the Ace of Wands is action, it's inspiration, it's courage as well. It's taking a step in the dark. It has to do a bit with blind faith, because the new things that you try, anything new that anybody tries, you don't know exactly how it's going to play out. And a lot of people, they get stuck in the things and the shitty things that they already know, because they are very comfortable in the security of even of what has always been. And they're scared of making decisions of, this is no longer the life I want to live. I need to make a transformation. And of course, transformations are difficult. There's a song in Spanish from Silvia Rodriguez, and it says how that coward love goes nowhere. Nobody writes about coward love. Nobody writes great stories. They never become anything epic. You need courage to live the life you want to live. A life with purpose requires courage. It requires passion, of course. You have to follow that passion, but that passion is always has to go hand in hand with courage. If you're only passionate and sitting down and not doing anything and not making moves, you're not going to get anywhere. You need to have that passion. Okay, say, this is my passion, this is my purpose, this is how I want to live the rest of my life, with something that feels meaningful. And there's going to be, the rest of the cards are very much the same. Is like the same, not like the same energy, like of the Fool and Judgment, of realizing that we need to make drastic changes. I mean, Judgment is a wake-up call. It's a Pluto card, and Pluto is going to have a big influence on the whole planet, as also as Pisces, as Saturn enters Pisces, of probably shit hitting the fan even more, and us realizing that we need to make a change, where the paradigm, what we've been doing, is no longer working, and neither is our mind or our spirit the same it was before these difficult times of Saturn going into Aquarius, and the spiritual lessons that we learn from the darkness. That we need to take a step into something new in order to create a world, a life, where we have the following, where we have, with the Empress, where there's nurture, where there's kindness. And think of the Empress like the Princess Diana, the Queen of Hearts, right? She not only having that position of power, but also using it for the benefit of the world, with the Ace of Chalices, with the Ace of Hearts, and with the Ten of Chalices, which is actually Pisces and Mars, which is Mars is about acting, right? And Pisces is about those good values, is about things that is thinking of the collective and not only of yourself, of making things like a family. You structure a family with its values and its protection, because your heart is there, because your most valuable things are there, your family is there. And I truly believe and I am feeling intuitively that as Saturn enters into Pisces, we're going to enter into realizing how the micro and the macro are equally important, that there has to be a revolution of how we're creating our families, how we're living our family life, who we're spending our life with, who are going to be our closest in our circle, as things get tough, because of course the economy we're still treading uncertain waters when it comes to the economy, but also having difficult financial situations make us realize, and that's a lesson for a lot of people that probably had never experienced difficult financial situations. You realize, you empathize with the people in third world countries that don't have the certainty of what they're going to eat tomorrow, or you never had to experience what it was to feel anguish because you don't know if you're going to have enough money to feed your children, or if you're going to have enough money to clothe them, because of someone like, I don't know, like Elon Musk decided that the easiest route to fixing the company was just to fire 10,000 people, 20,000 people. How many people have been fired already from the technical area, from all the tech workers? I'm pretty sure we're going to start seeing the problems in that. We're going to start seeing how things like big companies are going to be malfunctioning, because all those people that were fired, they were necessary for the company. We are going to enter a time where Aquarius where Saturn was in Pisces, of being like very selfish and just my life, my world, and I don't care what happens to other people, into the Pisces in Saturn area, Pisces in the other way around, Saturn entering the house of Pisces, of realizing that in order for all of us to be, for the world to be well, all of us have to be well. Very much the message of Nelson Mandela and from Martin Luther King and Stephen Biko. As long as there's still people that are living in slavery and that are being treated unjustly for whatever reason, because where they were born, because of their nationality or the color of their skin, we are still in slavery until we have not really gotten rid of that evilness that is slavery, of justifying that it's okay for people in the third world countries to be suffering because that's how it's always been, and it's their own doing. It's not their own doing. It's been the doing of how we created the world, how the leaders have created the world, how the first world countries have created a system from since the Industrial Revolution, of and even before, of kings just asking people to bring in whatever with taxes. Of course, well, taxes well managed are for the benefit of all, but not when those taxes are to enrich the richest and to make the poorer poorer, of course. And we're gonna see that very much in the following, as we enter and as we transition from this change of paradigm, where we are finally breaking that, because of the mental, because the pandemic has made us suffer a lot mentally. Right now, who is not having mental problems? Who is not having mental problems in the workplace? Who's not having mental problems with their family? If you talk to a lot of people, they're going bonkers. They will tell you things that are so illogical and so irrational. And the people that are actually have their feet in the ground, they feel overwhelmed by all this suffering, by everything that's happening. But we are slowly but surely we're awakening. There's an awakening. Like 10 years ago, some people, like a few people, knew that the Johnson and Johnson talc was cancer producing, and you would tell anybody about it and they didn't give two shits about that, and they wouldn't even believe you. But right now, you just check the comments on anybody puts like a comment about talc and baby talc and then Johnson and Johnson, and you see a plethora of comments of people already knowing that it's carcinogenic, that it carries asbestos, of people watching out for plastic and knowing that the plastic also it produces cancer. We know that hair straightening products that a lot of women use, and especially the black women use to fit in with the idea of the beautiful long flowing Disney hair, and because they've been singled out because of their hair, and there's like so much about the culture of being black and having and the hair, and a lot of women are just chopping their hair off. I did as well. I didn't have time to be taking care of my hair. We're liberating ourselves that of walking away from things where we have to be very careful where we put our energy and where we put our resources, because as the strain of the mental health of the world is becoming more burdensome, like here, we're releasing the things that we no longer need. Do we really need those nails that that cause? Of course, there's healthy alternatives that don't come with cancer producing products, but if we realize that a virus, something that we cannot see, can actually bring us death, we are also getting awakened how the little doses of toxicity from relationships to the products that we consume are also going to deteriorate our quality of life. And because we've seen death so closely during this time, and we've like awoken to the fact that life is limited and it comes to all, to the rich and the poor. And of course, that if we don't take care of the planet, doesn't matter how much money you have, or of course the poor are going to be the ones to to bear the brunt and the suffering first, but it's also going to affect the super rich as well. It's going to affect us all because we live in a planet that is connected. With the Six of Pentacles here and the Knight of Wands, I feel that energy of where are we putting that energy? Where are we putting our passions? Realizing that our energy is limited, of course, and being discerning of what are we holding to, of with the Four of Pentacles and the Three of Wands, being a visionary of, okay, I'm spending my life doing this or in this job, and what's going to happen in the next 10 years if I keep doing the same thing? What's going to happen to me also emotionally and mentally if I keep being closed to my emotions? And I see that there's also going to be a revolution with Pisces and Saturn of masculinity. Or we're going to see more examples of healthy masculinity. I saw a beautiful video, and of course we are used to, and usually in the like in the US and it's important to see the bad, of course, of brutality, police brutality towards the black community, and how appalling it is. But there's also examples of good policemen that are actually super heartful, and they're like protectors, like they should be, of course. They're there for the people. They're there for the citizens. They're there to increase our quality of life, not to decrease it. And we cannot say generalize that any policeman is a psychopath. There are policemen that are psychopaths. The structure has allowed for psychopath personalities to be accepted in the police force, but there's also very heartful policemen out there. I'm sure there's so many families that have their parents, their brothers, their sisters, cousins, friends that have become policemen because they were, maybe when they were little, they had a difficult situation, and a policeman or a policewoman actually helped them out, and were like an angel, like a protector. And I saw that example of there's a video going on around of a man that was in his car, and the police were called, and he was it seems he was suicidal, and the policeman, in such a calm manner, like a parent, I don't know, like Jesus, like very, what a beautiful man, you know. And he's very calmly told the man, have you had suicidal attempts before? And he said yes. And he said in such a wise way, he said, very Pisces and Saturn, like the wisdom of Saturn, of knowing, of having gone through battles, probably, of this policeman himself. He was I don't know, I'm not sure, he might have been a war veteran, and he asked the man very humbly, what can I do for you to help you? And he said, the man also was open enough that, and actually there was a comment of a lady that I made a comment, and she said also about the healthy masculinity of the man that was suicidal, of asking for help. And he said, you know, man, what I could do with a hug. And the policeman immediately, with a full heart, like with the words flowing from his heart, he said, of course, man, get out and I'll give you a hug. And you have to see the video. If you've seen it, it's amazing. And that, I feel that is also going to be a great change from Saturn moving into Pisces, of that healthy, because Saturn is masculine, of course, is the structures, and it's the protector, as well as the king, it's agriculture. Of course, we also have the Queen of Pentacles, but in this sense, I feel there's going to be, and with Pisces, there's going to be more a change, like an opening, like the waters are of the Ace of Pentacles, is there's going to be an opening of men realizing that they're also vulnerable, that they also go through mental health problems, that they also need to manage their emotions, and that it's okay to feel vulnerable, it's okay to feel weak, it's okay to feel overburdened and to ask for help. And how probably there's going to be, if during the last time that Saturn went into Pisces, there was this movement for AA, for Alcoholic Anonymous. I feel there's gonna be groups for men, like to for because we have a lot of groups for women. Women, with naturally we when we're going through troubles, we get into our groups and we chat with our friends, and it's very easy for us to talk. Not only genetically but culturally, we've been brought that way. That if you have a problem, you talk it out with your friends. While men, they have been that has not been made available to them. The very capitalist, materialistic, and chauvinistic and patriarchal society has taught them that they should always be strong, and if they show any sign of weakness, they're less men than the others. And I feel we're gonna have to see this change of actually more groups of men supporting each other, because like during the 1930s, there was a great problem with the mental health of men, because a lot had lost their fortunes. They lost everything on Wall Street, and there was a big actually phenomenon of men jumping from buildings to their death, because they lost all their money, because they felt that once they lost their money, they had lost their manhood, they had lost their value. And a lot of them drowned themselves in alcohol. That was also part of the of that. But I feel there's going to be structures with Saturn and going into Pisces, of groups for men to support men, of healthy masculinity, and of seeing men in a wholesome way, and in exalting the heart of men, and putting men that use their logic and their heart, that have a good balance between the logic and the heart. That is what I truly feel that Saturn in Pisces is going to bring. And that is fantastic, because once we fix that wound that men are carrying, it's finally when we're going to be, as women as well, we're going to be able to transform this world into a fraternal world. Actually, we're going to see more of those King of Cups, because the King of Cups is very Saturn, but very wise as well, and he knows how to thread the waters of his emotions. And with the Queen of Pentacles, of nurturing, of there's going to be a good balance of probably going to see more women getting into businesses and nurturing businesses. They're going to be nurturing to the planet and going to be nurturing to the communities. I saw actually a great, and it's already starting on, like, the biggest Ivy Leagues universities are now having heads, presidents or whatever, directors are now Black women, and that's fabulous. That's great. We're moving in the right direction, and we're gonna see more like women being more empowered and being in places where they can bring more nurturing to societies, and men that are gonna be able to canalize and hold the space for the men around them, and hold space for empathy. Not only because men, of course, they have to create a strength, and of there being a good balance between empowered women and men that are actually strong in being vulnerable. Think of Tom Brady. Just look at and listen to his messages. He's exactly this King of Cups. Like, he's a warrior, but he's so heartful, and he's so full of wisdom. And that's what I see, the change that we're going to see. And I strongly felt it when I did this reading. Like, I threw the cards several days ago, but I wanted to be sure what I was putting out there, because I felt I was just as curious as everybody else what's going to happen when Saturn enters into Pisces, and to my because people say, Saturn is always about difficult things, and people always cringe when they hear the word Saturn. But Saturn also has, like we had, even though it was so heavy, the Saturn moving into Aquarius, but now it's moving out of it into Pisces. And as I said, the universe always has the tendency to find balance. So now, if we've seen the egocentric, if we've seen people being at their worst because they've been during harsh life conditions, financial troubles, because of the isolations, because of the madness of the world, and people like going crazy on their own homes, right? And we're going to see the balancing of the scales, of the healing balms, of if we had destruction and isolation during this last 2.5 years, we're going to have structures that are going to bring us together, structures of brotherhood, of fraternal and more humane movements that are going to start gaining a lot of strength. And do know that, of course, Saturn moves slowly, and Pisces is water, so it flows in it's not going to be immediate, but it's gonna be steady, slow and steady, wins the race. Here again with the King of Pentacles and the Hierophant, there's going to be that change on how to be a leader, how to grow things. There's also going to be probably changes on how we're producing our goods, of how balancing the scales on it, on people that are actually farming what we eat, for things to be more fair for them, because they've always gotten the wrong end of the stick. The supermarkets get the better deal, while they do almost nothing to actually create the good that is being presented, or the from the apple, from the potato, from the beans, from the rice, from the meat, from the eggs currently, which is a big issue, from dairy or almond, whatever, almond milk or oat milk. We're gonna focus on how we are producing everything, and that everything is fair, not only for society, not only for those that are farming it, but also for the environment. Because the Pisces, that's a great thing of Pisces, and I think that with Saturn giving it like the structure, like the heart, and this is where I feel like Saturn is going to be our cup, and it's going to be the right cup to fill in the waters of Pisces, of fraternity, of sustainability, of putting limitations on how we are using our resources, and in the long term how they're going to affect the flow of humanity. With the Two of Cups, like for their, I feel a very like Nelson Mandela energy. And actually, as I was feeling like I was flooded with thoughts of Richard Branson and how he does things differently. I'm going to read to you shortly all his best quotes, which I think are actually the essence of Saturn entering into Pisces. I think he's the best example of what Saturn entering Pisces looks like. What a man with good Saturn placement and good Pisces placement as well. He's got a lot of Sagittarius as well. He's got a Sagittarius on his 5th house, which is and that's, he's always happy and he's so joyful, very much, very like Christ-like. Because Christ was about joy. Branson, he's got his, on his 5th house, he's got Sagittarius. Sagittarius has a tendency, or like energy of realizing how important it is to be happy, how important it is to crack a joke when things are getting difficult, how important laughter is, how healing it can be, and how just being alive should be a joyful experience, and how your presence in the life of others should be a source of happiness, and how other people in your life should be a source of happiness and joy. And that's a very Christ-like energy. And I see that there's going to be power couples that are going to be created during this time, during the Pisces entering, Saturn entering Pisces, of uniting, and as well as companies, and of people wanting to, because Two of Cups is not only romantic, but it's also like partnerships in general, romantic and as well as the workplace, because it's a commitment of people committing their lives to things that have heart, that are overflowing with dignity as well. Because if there's no dignity and there's no respect, there's actually no real love. And last that I want to show you before I read the quotes from Richard Branson, which I feel he's going to be a great leader in this transitioning of times. We're going to have energies of this, of giving and receiving, of understanding how what we put out in the world is what gets back to us from what we're consuming, what we choose to consume, the behavior that we have, and the people that we accept in our lives. And that by giving, and to those that needed the most, we are also enriching our lives. We're enriching the whole of humanity. There's going to be great wisdom in regards to that, and I feel like giving and receiving is very much like the Pisces and Saturn energy of putting the heart, the material, like the spiritual coming together with the material, of finally realizing that we must put the heart in society, in what we built. We must put our heart in what we built, in order for things to, in order for us to survive, actually. There's going to be partnerships and alliance of this type, where people share moral values and understand the importance of brotherhood, of being fraternal, of being compassionate, and of extending ourselves to others, and how that benefits all of our lives. Think of all these people that, like in the US, that go mad and start killing people, and all these shootings and mass killings all the time. There are people that with broken masculinities that are probably don't have any support groups, or just lose their handle, and they, maybe there was a, they already got to a point, like if they, when they started feeling this anger and violence, if they had reached out to groups where they felt that they could be heard, where there would be a space for them. If we start seeing, okay, what kind of environment makes a person start a mass shooting? How, what do we need to implement so that it doesn't happen again? There's going to be partnerships and alliances of that kind in our individual lives, and as well as in the collective. And I think this very much on Richard Branson. And if you have not seen, if you have not investigated before, or if you've never heard of it, he's very much involved in a group that's called the Elders, which started with Nelson Mandela, and like he's building bridges. And talking about that, did you know that Nelson Mandela and Richard Branson were born on the same date, not on the same day, but on the same day, July 18, both of them. And they both, if you think about it, Nelson Mandela was always smiling. Richard Branson is always smiling. And they're both great listeners. And they're about building bridges. And they're about doing things, and they're revolutionaries of how things were made, and how they're actually, Nelson Mandela putting the heart in the structure of government, of forgiveness, of that, just as a and yeah, like we think, oh my God, where is the world gonna head into if we have all this, the richest men and the leaders of the world, like I said, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, and all of them, who think their employees are just a number, and they're the ones that are leading the market, and they're the ones that telling the other companies, just slash your employees to half, just think of them as numbers. Humble and realizing that if things are not working well in their companies, okay, investigate. If it's something from the economy, if it's something, is it, are you really well managing your company? Or why don't, if you've seen, I think that's a great example. There's some videos of actually bosses that go undercover, and they go like on the, and work on the lowest, with the lowest paid workers they have, and they see how, and usually the lowest paid workers are the ones that are giving the product or handling the product, or they're the ones facing the customer, and they are seeing how things actually work in their company, and they realize all the mistakes that they've been making, and they realize how actually they had very loyal workers under. Great quote on how different Richard Branson is doing things. And although he's not making the news because he's not saying things that are appalling, which we see from the others, of course, all the time. Sometimes when we don't hear much about people, it's actually because they're doing things right, because there's no controversial things to be talking about them, because they're just being good. They're bringing dignity into a dignified workplace and a good environment, and they don't need to. They're not making the news because of that, because they're not being negative. There's going to be spiritual union, probably a lot of, as I said, power couples, because we're this Pisces in Saturn is a great lesson that no man can win a war. Any kind of like anything that is worth or stands the test of time or is worth it is not made by only one person, is made by a team. And that everything that we've created, from science, from going into space, I mean, going into space was not one person. Yes, we might just think of Buzz Aldrin as the ultimate person that made it to the moon, but in order for him to get to the moon, we had so many people working behind him to make it happen. From all the women that were crunching numbers and the great mathematicians, including actually Jack Black's, the actor, mother, who was super important, as well as all the which I don't know her name, please forgive me, and as well as all the black women as well, the mathematicians that were super important in to get us to the moon. It was a work effort, even if we were not seeing their faces, even if it's not until now that we actually know their names, even if it's until now that they're making movies about them. We're going to finally see a movement of the spiritual, of good values, of the heart and logic coming in together with the structures, with the way we make society, with the way we make economy, with the way we make businesses, with the way corporations are made, where we're going to realize that that is actually the only way to have abundance and to move forward in humanity, is with the material and spiritual binding together, combining together for there to be prosperity. There's going to be material and spiritual prosperity movement that's going to be created as Pisces, as Saturn, I keep it saying the other way, as Saturn enters into Pisces. There's going to be time for action because things are going to start to crumble with the new moon in Aries, with this, and that's something that Richard Branson has a lot of energy in Aries, of doing things new. He's the kind of person that says the only way to learn how to do something is to start doing it, to learn how to do it, and not to wait for the perfect moment either. The heart, there's going to be a big heart chakra activation, and I feel that comet, that green comet that was that, I don't know, it was like every 4,000 years passes around the world, is leaving its energy. That green, the heart activation, because we are in so much darkness after all these trials and tribulations, after seeing and realizing that and feeling that gloom and doom, like all the politicians are corrupt, the corporations are hellish, disgusting places to work at, where you put all your energy and your livelihood into a company, and then somebody makes a decision that instead they're probably, the leaders are also equally stressed, and they, instead of seeing how they should be checking the details, something that Richard Branson says, and he has actually his moon in Virgo, and he's got an amazing placing of the planets to make him an amazing man. And like, he's got the perfect combination of like the happiness and getting along with everybody, understanding people and loving people of Sagittarius, and of knowing the importance of having fun and being joyful and respecting others, and how you can learn from everybody, where he can be the teacher as well as the student with anybody he's around. Very Sagittarius, as well as having in his second house, he's got Pluto and Saturn, of understanding how things were made, but also having that mindset of how things should be rebirthed, and how things should be done in a new way. And he has also in the 8th house, he's got Pisces and Jupiter, which makes him a revolutionary, like very Christ-like energy, revolution of humanitarian revolution, definitely. I mean, he is a man of great wisdom, because he's able to have that Pisces energy of knowing there's so much power in the communion and fraternal unity, and of teamwork, and of seeing the details, because something that Sagittarius can miss is the details, because Sagittarius loves the big picture, but he sees the big picture in regards to fun and meeting people. But with his moon and Virgo, he's also able to see the details of because, yeah, like they say, the devil is in the details, right? And that is what makes him a great man, and gives me a lot of hope, because I truly feel he's going to be an important energy in the world. Don't let the past hold you back. We're moving away from all those things that are no longer serving us. And let's see, here we have companionship. We are understanding the importance of surrounding ourselves with people that have our backs. That is going to be very important during this Pisces season, like with Jesus, with his apostles. Not that they were perfect, or and when I talk about Jesus, I don't talk about the religion. I'm not talking about the institution, because the institution, no, not the institution. I mean, we are moving away from the institution being separated from the people to actually having a communion of the people, building the right institutions for there to be fraternity, for there to be a more humane world, and where we're going to finally see deliverance, where we're going to feel release and relief in the changes. But it also has to do with the discernment that we have to have on who we're surrounding ourselves with, what are the things that we're consuming, where they come from, how they impact the world, and who we're teaming up with. That is going to be very important as well. Last, let's see, I have here, there's an astrologer that I saw, and I think that's going to also be very important, the protection of the ocean, and for there to be structures and to be better laws to protect the oceans and our water resources. Probably because Pluto is going to shake our ground and let us know that either we take care of that or that's going to take care of us. We're going to have a balance between what we're pouring into our waters, where we're in our emotional waters, mental waters, as well as the physical waters, from the ocean to lands to rivers, and for us to understand that in order to succeed for humanity to succeed, we must find this balance, and that we must start taking care of the waters of the planet, because we all share those waters. That's what connects us all, the water. Hugs and people getting together, of course, are going to be very important. There might probably be like groups, like hugging groups, groups of people that just get together and hug each other, and also of having gone through difficult situations during this 2.5 years, are gonna have soften our heart to the difficulties of others, thankfully. And here with the King of Cups, this is the after tarot. With the King of Cups, we are gonna finally realize how making our environment healthy, from, as I said, from the physical environment, from our family place, from our community, from our neighborhood, to our nation, to the planet, and to our mental health. What we are, the waters that we're pouring, the emotions that we're putting out, and our mind to be healthy. Because people are, of course, are on the breaking point of stress. And if there was a time where people were consuming more medication for mental health issues, is now, right now, probably more than ever. I'm sure we'll see the article pretty soon on how many people around the world are consuming antidepressants, anxiety medication. I am one of those, and I don't blame anybody for taking them, because there's been so much. I think an astrologer was talking about that, and I feel there's going to be a lot of importance on the structure of the mind, of psychology, of how the environment affects, like our work environment affects our mental health, and how our mental health is actually is related to the productivity of any company. And let's see, last here with, because there's a lot of I had two when I made the reading, two cards with the Ace of Cups, but this one's didn't represent what I wanted to, what I was feeling, and that is of realizing with the war and the war of everything, the war in our lives, it's like we've all been through war. In this 2.5 years, it just felt like we've been through war. I'm sure everybody's feeling with a post-traumatic stress disorder from their financial struggles that come from being in war, from losing family and friends, and even imagine how it is for the people that have actually been enduring real, actual war in Syria, in Ukraine, in all the places and the third world countries that have always been on civil unrest and in civil wars. And we are finally going to start to realize how that is affecting all of us, and that if we don't do something about it, we're not going to last long on this earth. The doomsday clock is getting closer to shit is going to hit the fan and kiss your ass goodbye, right? So if there was a moment for a revolution, a heartful revolution of logic and mind, of logic and heart, it is right now. That we realize that if our mental and our emotional well-being is not okay, our minds are not going to be functioning, and even the minds of the leaders. It's very important this on regards to partnerships and companionships, for people to understand that when you're in a position of power, it is so important to have someone to have when you have a position of power, it should always be shared by two people that have complementary personalities, that have each other's back. Because when you have one person in charge of a lot of stress, a lot of things, that neurologically and psychologically, that diminishes your stability and your equanimity. You're not as balanced. You get stressed and you get irritable, and you lose your empathy. When you're under stress during a long time, people lose their empathy, and that's what we're seeing around the world with all your friends that you are saying, oh my God, what's going on with them? They've been going through so much that they're losing their empathy. And that also happens with leaderships, with people that are CEOs, with people that are the presidents of companies. You need someone to call you out of your bullshit. And that is also important in relationships, like people that are in partnerships, like husband or wife, or husband and husband, whatever your cup of tea is. You know that when you have a family, there's a lot of struggles. You have a lot of responsibilities, and that you need a partner that has to call you out when you're getting out of line, that has to call you out when you're getting out of balance. And that's going to be, I think, also something very important on regards to someone that has the structure. And I've seen it in companies. Succeeding companies have a person that is more the Saturn, about the structure and the little by little, and you have the other person that has the Pisces qualities, that has the qualities to relate to others, that has the qualities to spread and to understand others. But you need the both of them to have that Ace of Cups, where specifically with this one, with this tarot, of actually building a great structure that it flows well for everyone, of that Unitarian kind of energy. And last, after this very philosophical reading, for all of those that are still there, I'm going to give you the quotes, the beautiful quotes from this man that I keep feeling like he's gonna change the world. Let's see. There's also going to be this kind of energies of, these are not the quotes yet, of experiencing the unity of all things, which is a very Pisces thing, where the material, there's going to be material, where we're going to realize that in order for there to be real prosperity that is long lasting, it must be material and spiritual. Regardless of your spirituality, we need to hold on to something that is bigger than us, for us, like, to be good to our neighbors. Something as simple as that. Or to treat others like we want to be treated. The golden rule is going to become very important. Where creative imagination is going to be based on love and truth to find solutions to the problems that we're going to be facing. Where we're going to have a compassionate desire to help create a more beautiful and spiritual world for humankind. Where there's going to be more flourishing of groups or movements of teachings on how to connect to spirituality, whichever way it might be, uh, whichever spirituality you choose, but something that is connecting to something bigger than us, that connects us to an afterlife and to connects us all as a brotherhood of and sisterhood in this planet. Of there, I also feel there's going to be scientific studies on clairvoyance and mediums. Like it's gonna be there's gonna be more studies on that where there's gonna be more seriousness in the scientific arena on regards to people that are clairvoyant or are mediums, and it's gonna be an energy where the visionary, which is Pisces, meets the practical for the long term. Okay, so the quotes that I have, which are what set the I feel is what gonna set the drum of what is gonna come as Saturn enters Pisces, with the following quotes from Richard Branson, which is gonna be our man. He's gonna be like the leader. We're gonna move from the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos of not listening to their employers, not even caring what their employees are doing, not even treating them as human beings, to actually this kind of thinking. He says, Richard Branson, God bless his soul. He was brought up right, and I listened to a short podcast that was made recently, and the interviewer, she asked him what he thought his legacy would be, and he said, I hope that my legacy, very Pisces, right? I hope that my legacy is that my children learn the good things that I learned from my parents. How to and these are the following. He says, Richard Branson, take care of your employees and they will take care of your business. It is that simple. He also says, and this is the like with the Pisces and Pisces meets Saturn, of like, where do we put the water? Where do we put the emotions? Well, we put them in the cup. That's the simplest way. He says, and this is probably a Sagittarius thing because, or I don't know, because it really resonates with me, and I love this kind of thing. He says, complexity is your enemy. Any fool can make something complicated. It is hard to make something simple. He also says, your employees are your company's real competitive advantage. They're the ones making the magic happen so long as their needs are being met. Clients do not come first. Employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients, and then the clients will take care of your shareholders. He also says, train people well enough so that they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to. Richard Branson says, it's amazing what doors can open if you reach out to people with a smile, friendly attitude, and the desire to make a positive impact. That's such a Nelson Mandela thing as well. And they used to work together. They were the ones. Actually, he said that it was with Peter Gabriel, because if you don't know, Richard Branson, he started his entrepreneurship with a music record, Virgin Records, and he said it came that idea of putting together like the elders of the world, the wise men, the wise, heartful men of the world, like this, like King of Cups, the Nelson Mandela, the Gandhi, the Martin Luther King, the Stephen Biko, that kind of people, but especially Nelson Mandela, given that they were born in the same date, and actually they were both born after wartime. Nelson Mandela was born at the end of the First World War in 1918, in July 18, and Richard Branson was born in July 18 of 1950, right after the war, 5 years after the war, so Second World War. So I think that they are like the energy that the world needed after so much destruction and after so much killing. They are the bridges. They are the humanitarians that the world needs, right? Thinking of the human rights being made after one of the great things that came after the Second World War are the human rights in the Geneva Convention, that all men are created equal. All human beings are created equal. He says, Richard Branson, I believe a good leader brings out the best in people by listening to them. Imagine. Well, he doesn't say imagine, but I mean, from all those people that only care to listen to themselves, and this man says this, I believe a good leader brings out the best in people by listening to them, trusting in them, believing in them, and letting them have a go. A company's employees are its greatest asset, and your people are your product. Absolutely. Anybody knows that. Anybody who needs to talk to customer service, you know, a company is as good as its customer service. I say that. That's my quote. Richard Branson says, as a leader of people, you have to be a great listener, a great motivator. Be very good at praising and bringing out the best in people. That is such a Nelson Mandela kind of thing as well. He says, engage your emotions at work. Your instincts and emotions are there to help you. Very Pisces. Pisces is about following emotions and intuition. But he's also got this good balance of Capricorn in his life. I think he's got Capricorn in the 10th, or does he have Taurus? I don't remember, but he's got the amazing placement. Like, he's strong where he needs to be strong and long-lasting. He knows where to have fun and how to treat people with nice and joyfulness and heartfulness in the 5th house in Sagittarius. And he knows that things need to be transformed and in a humanitarian way with his Pisces in his 8th house. And with his moon in Virgo, he also knows the importance of details, that the devil is in the details. He says, respect how you, sorry. Respect is how my handwriting. Respect is how you treat everyone, not just those you want to impress. That's amazing. And I've heard that a lot. He treats everybody like he's super grounded. He treats everybody with respect, everybody that he meets. He says, no matter how big you are, details count. Moon, that's very Moon in Virgo, of course. He says, Richard Branson, put your passions to work to make the world a better place. Passions to work to make a better place. That is exactly the energy that I feel of my reading and of Saturn entering into Pisces. He says, create the kind of workplace and company culture that would attract great talent. If you hire brilliant people, they will make work feel like play. Of course. He says, the brands that will thrive in the coming years are the ones that have a purpose beyond profit. Absolutely. And I felt that energy on another reading. And that would be what I want to bring forth to the world. I hope that this message gets around. I hope that you liked it. I hope that it felt empowering. And regardless of how many people see it or don't see it, I know this is the energy that I'm feeling. And I wanted to make it. This also, the Saturn getting into Pisces is putting our dreams into reality. Of exactly putting our money where our mouth is, or putting our money where our heart is, which is more important. And if you would like a personal reading of how this is going to play out for you, I'll put the details below. You can reach me by email, or you can subscribe to my Instagram. Hopefully you also subscribe to my YouTube to keep checking out messages like this, inspiring philosophical messages from the world, for us to be better, of the spiritual lessons that each phase of the astrology brings into the world, along with the tarot cards, and to make a place a better place. Last, I saw a quote here. This is the last thing. I'm going to translate it as I go because it's actually in Spanish, and it says, "No trial or cross that you're bearing is definite, and our efforts to make this world more humane and fraternal would not be lost and would not stop giving fruit." So it might take time, so do not despair. There's a lot of people putting great energy in this world. There's a lot of people that are binding their heart and their mind together and they're and hopefully it is going to become viral, this new change of mindset, this new paradigm change. And sending you blessings to all.